For some reason, my thoughts today ran on to the idea of bullying. And this isn't terribly unusual. I mean, back when I was in school, I was terribly bullied, I guess, and I know people who probably suffered a lot worse from it. But there's sort of a general feeling now in today's society that it's just a bad thing. And I'm not sure that it is. My thoughts were more along the lines of, well, yeah, it's horrible to be bullied, and the effects on me are kind of odd, but I think it's one of society's mechanisms for ensuring conformance. We have so many. When you're raised by your parents, you're raised to accept society's dictates, as it were. When you go to school, you're having proper behavior, etc., drilled into you. What's acceptable, what's not. Bullying is just an informal way to do this, as far as I can tell. Now, what you have is a society of your peers, essentially, saying, this is weird, this is wrong, we can't accept this, and we're going to make fun of you for it. Now, they may feel better because they do that or whatever, but it's really deeply ingrained in our social mechanisms, I think. So, it's a way of ensuring that conformance. Now, in today's world, or at least starting some 10 years ago or so, we saw a lot of strong support for ideas like divergence. But even those are usually termed in concepts such as you should learn to be accepting of other cultures and of other societies, as it were. There's nothing in there that says, let's just accept the weirdo. And I don't know if there should be or not. I really don't. Certainly, if everybody's an individual, much as in America we sort of idealize the maverick and the individual, if everybody's that, society may just not work at all. You may have anarchy. So, to some extent, I think a conformance is necessary. The problem with it is that there are some people like myself who you're just not going to change. All you're going to do is torture us or convert us into something very different. And in my case, I went from being very, very pacifistic to learning the way to be what I am and remain what I am, true to myself, yet not suffer this way, is to become fairly violent, to tell you the truth. I mean, these were the lessons I learned in school was, and my mom put this on me very clearly, was well, just don't take it from them. And yeah, I didn't. I learned to lash out, and I learned that much later too, when bullying wasn't really the issue, but other things that weren't going my way. So, I don't know if the creation of turning the edge cases into perhaps somewhat violent creatures, and violence is not all physical. Violence can be manipulation. It can be just lashing out at people in conversations, or making them feel as badly as perhaps I'm used to other groups making me feel. It's a strange situation, and I'm just not sure where we can go with this, because, as I said, I think bullying is kind of inherent as a societal mechanism. But given that, is it the one we want? And that led me to thinking, well, being introspective as a person helps you understand a lot about your own motivations, and maybe even your goals, although I've had a lot of trouble trying to figure out what the hell those are for me. But as a society, I don't think we are very introspective. We latch onto a buzzword like diversity, and that gets its adherents, but it also directs a great deal of negative feeling from those who maybe don't like to see things changing in the underlying structure. But what we don't see is we don't see someone looking and saying, look, why are we insular, and why are we desiring to be diverse? What do we actually gain? And what do we lose? And I think this is the kind of conversation that needs to be had at a very, very broad level across the board, on television, on the media, but it's not. The assumptions are there, and then they change. PC becomes something almost within a couple of years. The diversity becomes something almost within a couple of years. And there's a lot of strife there, and not really a good understanding of why this is particularly good. Some platitudes are given, but the real debate into the desired outcome and the causes isn't there. And I think we need to enter into that kind of discussion instead of just viscerally saying, this is good, this is bad. I mean, look, that doesn't work for me. It may work for most people, but most people are going to accept what's good is what they've been trained their whole life. So bullying gets passed off in that way. Jokes get passed off on that way. And I have no problem with any of those. I want to investigate why we're trying to change these things in particular. Not necessarily the bullying, but say, being able to make off-color jokes. Look, people are going to feel uncomfortable to things other people say, no matter what. And I suppose it's sort of a my brother's keeper type of situation. It's not my problem if you can't handle what I'm saying. Now, there may be boundaries that we do want to establish. I mean, I think reaching up and groping someone is well beyond what I'd consider acceptable. But I think we should reach those at a very fundamental level, and as a society, rather than what we've done, which is either the natural evolving, which is too slow, I think, to properly institute change. The change becomes derided, and it becomes a joke. Even though everybody kind of agrees, oh yeah, it's bad to bully people. Oh yeah, it's bad to make jokes that make people uncomfortable, whatever. We really do need to look at what we're losing and what we're not. And the entrenched side, the side that's the standard that there's an attempt to overthrow, that side generally doesn't investigate. They're the ones who are the least willing to investigate at all, but they're the ones who should. They have the most to gain from it. They're the ones who are trying to defend their position. So laughing it off and saying, he was just joking. Well, that may be true, but let's look into that deeper. Let's see what is gained from those kind of jokes. What is gained from the kind of challenge that free speech, in the sense that you can say what the hell you like and you're not going to be reprimanded for it or even socially ostracized necessarily. That people are going to actually look into these things and think about them and understand them and see them maybe from your point of view before judging them. I think these things need to be done on a very broad level if we're making the changes, the rapid changes in technology, in social structures that are driven by that and by economics and by other reasons, are forcing us into. If we have to make these changes, let's not just dictate them from some ivory tower. Let's have a real national or worldwide or whatever discussion, or community discussion on a case-by-case basis if need be. why is it that we don't want to give this up, or why is it that we're willing to give it up? And that's something that that I think we've just never done. And I don't think many societies have. And I think the populace, at least with all the information available, is becoming a little bit more introspective in some ways. But maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it's me without my association to media that sees this. But it seems like, from communicating with people on the web, etc., that there's a lot more people out there who are thinking about who they are and what they want to be. Now, I'd still say 95% of humanity are idiots, and that's probably being very, very generous to them. But in terms of this, and maybe everything, but we'll leave that to other rants. But at least have that conversation out there where people can see it. The conversation as it stood, the people who are thinking usually aren't thinking deeply enough. They're not thinking about both sides. They're not arguing ever why it's good to maintain those status quos in ways that really relate properly. And you have to look at what the underlying reasons for maintaining them are to have any reasonable chance of changing them swiftly. And that discourse has to be available to everyone. It has to be out in the open, so that maybe some of these people who are just following their patterns can think about it and can respond in a reasonable manner. Now, I know this talk is probably of no use to most people who are subscribed to my channel now, because we're all gamers, but I like to think that gamers tend to be a more thoughtful group, so maybe it'll hit some resonance, I don't know. And certainly some of my older followers will appreciate this kind of crap.